So there are two stories in the newsletter today, both about personal communication. I read them as being connected. One that I referenced yesterday on air, I said that I'd become aware of it too late to include in yesterday's newsletter, but that it would be in today's newsletter, and it is from the Wall Street Journal. I was tipped off to this by Axios, which said chit-chat. Chit-chat has a bad reputation for being tedious and forgettable, but it's an important part of connecting with others. Small talk is often the launch pad for deeper, more meaningful conversations. There's then reference to a Penn communication and psychology professor named Emily Falk writing in the Wall Street Journal about her research, noting that after two people engage in some seemingly surface level chatter and build rapport, their brains start to synchronize a bit, opening a path to go deeper. And I read the study and read about the research that is the focus of that which I've just shared with you. And I learned that they put participants in this study in corresponding MRI machines. And as the two engaged in conversation, they saw what happened to their brains and how they synced up. Fascinating stuff. Yes, it comes under the umbrella of our need to mingle and socialize with one another. And then there's a story from Forbes today, also in the newsletter, about my next guest, who has a brand new book out. And it says this: when Jefferson Fisher first started filming videos in his car, sharing quick tips about communication and conflict resolution, he had no idea he was about to become social media's go-to expert on difficult conversations. Yet his straightforward, practical approach struck a chord. No abstract advice about active listening or building empathy, just clear, actionable strategies anyone could use immediately. Fisher has since gained millions of followers through his short videos teaching people how to argue less and talk more effectively. Whether it's handling a heated conversation, dealing with a difficult personality, or standing your ground with confidence, his down-to-earth teachings have helped countless people navigate life's toughest situations. I should add, in referencing his brand new book, it's called The Next Conversation, Argue More, Talk Less, from Jefferson Fisher, that TC has been a longtime fan of his and has said, there's this guy, he's a trial lawyer, you'll love him, he's in Texas, he and his dad, his name is Jefferson Fisher. Do you want to assist with the introduction?
I said all of those things, and yeah, I was lucky enough to have him on TC After Dark 2 years ago when he had a mere 1.3 million followers on Instagram. He's now, I believe, over 5.6 million. I could say I knew him when, but I think I knew him on the ascent, so I didn't know him when, but yeah, he is, he's A+. He's really terrific.
Hey, Jefferson, it's nice to welcome you to the program. Best of luck with the book. It's already getting great attention. I'm sure you've got a bestseller on your hands.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here. Truly, I am. And I want to shout out to my dad, David Fisher, who's an avid listener forever.
David Fisher, who joined your law practice after you decided to go out on your own.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's just a special story where finally, after years of practice, and I went off on my own, and he came over. It was wonderful.
I don't know if you accept the book as being in the self-help category. That's how I see it. And I read the book wanting to know, okay, why have you struck such a chord with your advice that includes, among other things, say it with control, say it with confidence, say it to connect. And first, why don't you lay out the whole thesis if you're able to do so?
Yeah, so this is a book that can really change your relationship simply with the power of what you decide to say next. That's why it's called The Next Conversation. And I lay out these three principles about how to handle difficult conversations. So there are some people that teach you how to play an instrument. Michael, I give you the chords to play. I give you the sheet music. Not of just, and that's part of why my videos have resonated so well and they continually go viral, is because I give short snippets of just 3, 1, 2, 3, just like I would do for a jury, almost an opening statement of this is exactly what you're going to get. And I give on that promise. And so by these tips, they have these aha moments of, yeah, I think I can do that. In fact, I know I can do that, to make them feel more controlled and confident in their next conversation.
So you remind me of the parenting advice that my father gave to me when he said, I love things that you can reduce, control, confidence, and connect. You remind me of my dad saying to me, when you raise kids, be firm, fair, and consistent. Firm, fair, and consistent, which is the way that he raised my brother and me, and that, I've tried to raise our own. So I have a theory as to why you are so successful. First of all, I think that your personality is such that people want to hear what you have to say. You're obviously an effective communicator, and I'm not taking away anything at all from the strategies that you offer in the book. But I also think your timing is perfect. And I think that your timing is perfect because coming out of the pandemic, and for a lot of the reasons that I talk about here on a day-to-day basis of societal disconnect and polarization, I think there's a yearning that didn't exist previously for your message, where people need help in understanding how to navigate relationships like never before.
I think that's spot on. There's a vacuum almost. There's just this demand for how do we almost relearn this idea of communicating with one another? How do we disagree and still be respectful? How do you get to voice your own opinion and what you need to say without trying to? I mean, everybody turns to social media as their megaphone right now, and never in the history of ever is you disparaging somebody's belief or political ideals on social media ever changed their mind, but yet we continually do it every single day. And so it's this big demand of how do you relearn how to talk to one another? And I think the pandemic and coming out of it has a lot to do with it.
Isn't the nasty nature of social media also part of your success? Because, you know, in that sea of crosstalk and negativity, like here's this nice guy from Texas, and he's a brilliant trial lawyer, and he has bite-sized advice that we can all understand and appreciate. Like their approach to the platforms has created this opportunity for you to be yourself and to be totally different.
Yeah, and I think there is this, and thank you, first of all, and I think that there is this almost counterintuitive contrast that here I am, a trial attorney, and I'm telling people how to speak with kindness and how to grow together. And I mean, as you know, us attorneys, we don't have the best rep in the world. And so when they see a guy on social media say, hey, he actually wants to help me and he's not trying to sell anything, he's just trying to give me tips for free, for value. And I'm telling people, you know, never win an argument. And here there's so many blogs and the counterculture of you need to win every argument, you need to defeat the other person. And that's not what I teach at all. And I think there's just a true hunger for that message.
The New York Times has just profiled you. They tell your story in this form, and I want you to expand on it. In early 2022, to raise the profile for the law firm he had just founded in Silsbee, Texas, Mr. Fisher began posting videos to social media in which he delivered succinct, down-to-earth communications advice as he sat in his parked pickup truck. To his astonishment, one video in his How to Argue Like a Lawyer series went viral on TikTok, racking up more than 1 million views one day after he posted it. And Mr. Fisher reached 500,000 followers on Instagram by year's end. Talk to me about the very first appearance that you made in social media, the one that they're referencing.
Yeah, I thought at that time, I previously thought I need to talk about my law firm. And then I thought, well, that just feels like I'm trying to sell stuff. And people, I mean, it's the question of why do you follow who you follow? It's for entertainment. It's for value. It's to get something out of it. And so I thought, well, what's one thing that I know in my world that I've learned more than anybody that I know? And I thought, well, I'll tell them how to argue. I'll teach them how to communicate. And so I made my first How to Argue Like a Lawyer video in the front seat of my car. And it was in my car, Michael, because I didn't have an office. I was still trying to find a place to lease. And so I just was in whatever I was in, and my kids' stuff was everywhere.
Right. Car seat in the back.
But it was the message that resonated. Yeah, car seat in the back, sippy cup, and it was the message that resonated. And then that went viral, and then people just asked me for more videos, and away I went.
What is it about you that allows Jefferson Fisher to be the authority, to have so much knowledge on interpersonal skills, relationships, communication?
I would say it's the proof of what I have on the followers that say, this is helpful to me. I'm not giving you fluff. This is a no-nonsense book. This is a zero-fluff book. And the reason why is I don't do that in my videos either. I don't tell you how to be an active listener. I don't say you need to listen with empathy. I give you the exact tools, the 1, 2, 3. If somebody says this is what you're going to say in turn. If somebody over apologizes, this is what you're going to say instead. So I'm tweaking words and phrases that even with just a few tweaks of a word, they're going to find a dramatic result and impact in how they communicate.
But Jefferson, what are you drawing on? Where does this come from? Is it the way that you were raised? Is it your skill as a trial attorney? Is it books that you have read? What's the library that gives you the ability and the knowledge to say these things?
Yeah, I draw it from childhood. I'm a fifth generation trial attorney. So when I got picked up from school, I was listening to the rest of my dad's deposition. I grew up watching closing arguments and watching trials, and I heard stories, courtroom stories, my whole entire life. I'm the oldest of four. And so communication's just been a gift that my parents prayed for a long time. And I've just kind of grown into that to where I began having tricks and little tips that I would teach other people. And eventually I would teach my own clients before we would go. I'd feed them, to the wolves in cross-examination of this is how to remain calm. This is how I want you to say this. And it just developed over time that this is something that's resonated. And I definitely didn't expect in a million years. This was never on my bingo card.
The book is titled The Next Conversation, Argue Less, Talk More. Jefferson Fisher is the author. You address this in the book, but I want you to explain it to my audience. As I read, I wondered, this is all making sense to me. This is great advice, but how am I going to remember it?
Yeah. What you need to do is just remember one. A lot of people want to remember everything all at once. Instead, just focus on one tip, one tool that matters the most to you. Something in the book's going to resonate. Something in my videos is going to resonate. You go, okay, I need to apply that. Well, grab onto it. Don't try and drink from a fire hose. You won't contain it all. Instead, just apply one little principle. So if it's over apologizing, if it's how to say something with more confidence, remember that one tool and apply it. And put a sticky note, try to emphasize that right there before you go on to the next one. Just little steps.
Give everyone listening who's not yet had the ability to read the book, give them one takeaway that they can use in their life today.
So anytime you need to disagree with somebody, whether it's at the workplace, in the boardroom, the living room, wherever it is, if you need to disagree with somebody, instead of saying, I disagree, which is automatically going to get them defensive, what I want you to do is change that to, I see things differently. That's it. I see things differently. And here, instead of coming full front at them, and they're going to raise out the spikes, draw up the moat, and get defensive on you. Instead, I see things differently doesn't get them defensive because it is a matter of perspective. It's just saying, hey, for where I'm sitting, I see something different. So when you use words of perspective from your vision of what you see, it does not get them defensive, and it'll lead to a better discussion.
TC, I see things differently.
Yes. Usually you and I do see things differently.
I see things differently. I just see it differently.
I know.
See
I see things differently, Michael. That's going to be
differently.
That will be said now in this studio.
Can we put it up on the wall, like right above you? And then as I take calls from
point.
people, I'll just say to the callers, I see things differently.
Yes.
And we'll think of Jefferson.
We'll think of Jefferson.
Jefferson, do these lessons apply? I think you anticipated my next question. Regardless of whether I'm dealing with my partner, my spouse in my case, or a coworker like TC, or a telephone caller to this program, or somebody that I randomly meet, do the lessons apply equally? I see things differently.
There you go. These lessons apply in any category of communication, whether it's at home or the workplace. Even if somebody's getting defensive at you, let's say at work or at the kitchen table, and they're getting defensive, if you just say something like, I agree, that's worth discussing. I agree, we need to talk about that. Even just saying I agree without agreeing with what they said, you're automatically going to get them defensive. So once you learn the tips in this book that teach you how to regulate your nervous system in real time when you communicate and stay above the emotional flooding, you're going to end up a much more controlled and more confident you in your next conversation.
So something else that I remember from the book, I speak on radio about the power of a pause. It's okay if there's a pause, because when I pause, sometimes, if effective, the listeners, I hope, are wondering, wait, did we just lose him, or is he about to make a serious point? What I learned from you in the book is the importance of breathing. See, I have a short fuse. Truth be told, I do have a short fuse. And if pushed, you're laughing now, but I find it very hard to keep it in check. You would say to me, Michael, before you have that kind of a response, just take a deep breath and think for a moment as to what you're next going to say.
Absolutely. And I mean, it helps everybody, short fuse or not, because it allows not only you to calm yourself down. Like what I teach is let your breath be the first word that you say. So when you inject a breath where your first word would be, And it's typically like that. I don't agree with that. Or did you say? Whenever you push that, instead replace it with a breath, you're going to make sure that what you say feels like it's much more controlled and intentional. And the other benefit of that, it also calms the other person down. So even if you add in that pause, a lot of the times in that space, the other person will change their words. They'll twist it, or they will critique it, or even take it back. And that's going to be a whole lot better than you flying off the handle or ramping it up. Because if they come at a level 3 and you come at a level 4, well, you've now just justified them to go to a level 7.
Okay, I'm all for civility. What you say makes sense, but there are some circumstances in life that I think call for a reaction that is more heated. I don't want to be taken advantage of. So if I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, how high can I go on that Richter scale that you just referenced?
I think you can go as high as you need to go. The difference is if you always plateau at a 7, so everybody's just used to you at a 7, a jump from a 7 to 10 is not going to mean anything to anybody. They're not going to understand that there's a difference. It's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. If you're always coming in hot and heavy, they don't really know the nuance of what matters and what is just everyday Tuesday for you. Instead, if you keep it at a nice in the pocket, kind of just what you hear maybe in a nice jazz band, if everybody's on rhythm, you're not ahead on time, you're not slow, you're not rushing, and you kind of speak in that pocket. Then when you actually have something to say, and then when you need to rise, and then you need to have that voice moment, then everybody will listen, and then you'll be heard a lot better.
You are a social media superstar. Now with a book that I'm convinced, based on your following and the way in which it's written, is going to be super successful. Are you going to run out of material? Like how many how many videos can you turn out relatively narrowcast, and how much advice can you dispense in a book like this before, like, Jefferson Fisher has told us everything he knows and that we need to know on the subject?
Well, I could. I mean, and if that's the case, then I finished my race. That was a fun game. That was a lot. That was a lot of fun. The communication always has little flips and nuances, and everybody's learning something new, and including myself. So I think with communication, you kind of have a never-ending supply of new things to discuss and experience and explore. But if I ever run out of content, that's okay with me.
I imagine that on a day-to-day basis, almost like the way in which I put together the radio program. I mean, some things are going to be obvious because it's front page material and everybody's buzzing about it. But my life is a search for the everyday that everyone can associate with and understand, regardless of their political perspective, that I can tell a story and people are going to say, yeah, happened to me too, or I've been there. So what do you do? Is there a notebook in that vehicle of yours where you see something and you realize I should address this, or in your legal practice, there's an event that happens and you decide I'm going to rely on this for my next video or putting it in a book like this?
Yeah, what happened, how I kind of built the following is I would talk about things that happened that day. So maybe how I handled a phone call with a rude, aggressive opposing counsel who was just a jerk. And I would talk about how could I teach somebody of how I handle that? How can I boil it down? How can I turn 40 pages into 2 sentences and boil it down to less than a minute and teach them how to handle it too? So that's really how it came about. And I still continue to use that. And none of my stuff is scripted. I make my video with my phone in the car and I just roll with it. And but it happens all the time, and I learn lessons from home too. So I'm definitely someone who can learn.
How has it impacted, final question, I could spend all day talking to you about this. How has it impacted your legal practice?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it's not even just the amount of cases I get and refer out all over the U.S., but it's almost more of now other parties want to settle because I'm involved, because jurors know me and court reporters know me, the bailiffs, the judges, they all follow my stuff. And so I've seen it in voir dire, the jurors all know who I am, and the defense attorney goes, ugh, and we settle pretty quickly.
Good for you. Well, I wish you all good things. The book is titled The Next Conversation, Argue Less, Talk More. Jefferson Fisher is the author. Say hey to your father. We appreciate you listening and wish you continued success.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you, TC. I appreciate it. It's my honor to be here.
I see things differently, TC.
I see things differently, Michael. That's it.
Well, we agree on Jefferson, right? We
you know what?
see that the same way.
We see that the exact same way.
Nice guy,
the
good
best.
demeanor,
Yep.
even keel.
Good for the next conversation.
Exactly.